Students, I hope you all are doing well. Today, in this lecture, I want to cover some of the basic concepts of objects and classes and constructors, basically some of the materials that we will see in Chapter 3. So I will start with some code because it seems like, or I feel that looking at the code and understanding the syntax and then trying to understand the concept is much easier than just doing blank PowerPoint presentation, which by the way you also have under the content. So I'm going to start off by creating a folder, and I'm going to call it file new, and I'm going to create a Java project. And remember, this is just the project, so I'm going to say chapter 3 underscore examples. Okay, so this is just a folder where I'm going to organize all my examples or the things that I'm going to do. So right now I have a chapter 3 example. So now here I'm going to go ahead and create a class. So I'm going to create a class here. Now I can open it up, so I should have a source. I can come in and click on the source directly, or I can come in and click on the folder and click on class, and it's still going to go under your source, because as you can see, the source folder, it is going under this folder right here. So I can right click over here, or I can right click over here. In both cases, it is going to go inside the source folder. At this point, I'm going to come up with a name. So I'm going to say I'm going to create a class called regular student. So far in chapter 1 and 2, we looked into Java, we looked into a basic program, we looked into some variables, we looked into some arithmetic operators. We have encountered some of the system out print methods. So once we have a basic understanding of how the Java program and the syntax works, I'm going to show you the difference between our regular students and what we have seen so far in the first 2 chapters compared to how we can create an object and a class and talk about constructors and the blueprint and on the concept of that. So I'm going to call it a regular student, and here I can select my public static main, and I can select my constructors, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say generate comments. So this is your regular student class. So if I come in and finish, so here is my basic template where I'm doing my regular student. Now at this point, instead of typing everything, I'm going to bring in some code that I've already done. So I'm going to start by saying, let's say I want to say string name. So these are my variables, int age. Okay, so these are some variables that I want to bring in, and if I want to make the program interactive so that I can input some values into my name and age, this is how I'm going to do it. Now one thing that you see here is when I'm saying student name SC dot next line, it's giving me a problem because it says that I do not have this cannot be resolved. It is because I need to, in order for me to make it interactive, I need to create a scanner object. So I say scanner and say, let's say call it SC equals new scanner. So this is, you will find whenever you're trying to take something interactively from the user, you will always have to create an object which belongs to the scanner class. That's basically how Java works. Again, you will see that there is an error over here. If you click on it, you will see that it says you have to import this library here, because otherwise the editor does not understand what you mean or where or what class you're referring to. So as soon as I bring in this library, by saying import and then java.util.scanner. So this scanner class belongs to this util, which belongs to the Java. So this is a hierarchical way of showing where this particular class scanner belongs. So it is actually in the utility library. So at this point, with this statement here, I am creating an object here, and this is the way you create your object. Always you use the keyword new. So SC is my object, and again I can call it anything. I can call it input, I can call it in, I can call it input, or I can call it SC. But whatever object I create, I have to follow the same object because I'm going to be using these methods, next line and next int, which belongs to this scanner class. So this is one way of doing it, where I'm defining a name, defining an age, and then asking user to input a name, and then I'm going to store it in my student1 name and input my age, student1 age, and then I'm going to print out my information with the system out print line, student name and student age. So if I run my program over here, you will see that it's going to come in and say input your name, and I'm going to input a name, let's say Johnny, input your age 32, and then it's going to say student1 information, name is Johnny, and the age is 32. Now if you want to give it a little more formatting, you know, make it look a little pretty, I can come in and say student name is something like this, and I can do the same thing over here, and I'm going to say student1.age, and so at this point, if I now come in and run my program, so it's going to say David 34, and here it goes, student1 information, David, and age is 34. Now what if I want to create another student? Okay, so now what I have to do, I have to come in and do the same thing, but I'm going to call it I'm going to say, okay, my student name is going to be the second student name, which is going to be using the SC method, and it's going to, now if I have to do the same thing, I'm going to say but now what I got to do is you need to come back and change this variable here, and like this. So you basically get the idea that if I have to store these values of a second student, then I have to come in and create my student2 name and ask the same question to, you know, store the value of student2 age. So here I did system out, so I have to come in and say, okay, give me this, and for this one I have to do it student1, and if I say input your age, so now I'm going to store it in my student2 age. And then if I want to print everything, then I have to copy and paste the whole thing and basically change everything from student1 to student2, and then this is going to be student2 and this is going to be student2. So now if I run my program, it's going to give me all my information from student1, and then it's going to ask me then it's going to give me information about student 2. Now, this is what we have seen so far. But now we're going to move away from this, and we're going to create some classes, and we're going to create some objects, which is the prime, or which is why Java, and you'll see that Java uses this object-oriented mode of programming for most of its purposes. So now what I'm going to do is, in my same chapter 3 examples, I'm going to create something a little differently. So now I'm going to say new, and I'm going to create still a class, and I'm going to call it class student. Okay, and in this one I'm not going to use a main method, and I can still create a constructor, but I don't have to, and I can say generate my comments. So this is still within my chapter 3 examples, but this is a different class, and this is how it's going to look like. So it says public class student. Now what I want to do is I want to create some fields. So I'm going to bring in things like, I'm going to bring my code in first. Okay. Here I'm going to say this is my public class student, and I'm going to say a private string name, and let's say I'm going to say let's get rid of one of these things, because I'm going to try to copy the same thing that I had seen in my regular student. You see, in my student I defined a variable name and age, and then I asked for them to input my name and then stored the value in student 1 name and student 2 name. So even though I have defined these two variables here, I'm really not using it, you see. So if I run it, input my name, and the name is going to be stored in my student 1. So I have to individually define those variables to store the individual names. Okay, so if I say Johnny and input my name again, this is for the second one, I say David, input your age 32, input your age 35, and then it says student 1 is Johnny, age is 32, student 2 information is David and 35. But now in this one I'm going to write this thing a little differently, and I'm going to define some of these variables, which are also called instance variable, which is going to be tied to this class right here. Also, another thing to note is they are defined as private. So anytime I want to put a value in this name or age, I cannot do it because it is set as private. In order for me to set some values in here, I have to write some method which would allow me to put name and age in these values. So now what I want to do is I want to come in and create some get set methods. Okay, and I'm going to say okay. So now I'm going to come in and say okay, I need to do some get set method, and this particular IDE Eclipse allows me to write some of the code by just pushing in some buttons. So it says generate getters and setters. Okay, so once I do that, it picked up that I have defined these two variables. I can select it individually, or I can select all, and this way it's going to be selected and it is going to be public method, okay, and I'm going to say generate. So now what it does, it writes these methods called getName and setName. So if I want to put any value in this name and age, then I have to go through these public methods called getName and setName. So the way you read the code is getName is the name of the method, and of course, just like your Python, in Java, everything that it has a open close parenthesis tells you that it's a method. So this is the name of the method. The string over here tells us that this method, whenever we call this method, it's going to return a string. And the third thing, it also tells me that this is a public method. This is the beginning of the method and this is the end of the method, and in the body of this method called getName, you have only one statement which basically returns the name. So by looking at the name of this method called getName, as soon as you call it, you're going to get a return of a name. And the other one is the setting. So again, my setName is the name of the method. I have a parameter that I'm passing here, and it says it's going to take in a string value. So string, and the name is the name of a variable. And then it is not going to return anything, so that's why it's void, but it is still public. And the name that I would take by calling this setName method is now going to be set into my name, which is this name over here. So this is a private method. So this is the way the getName and the setName is the way I'm going to put in value inside name, and by setName I'm going to put the value inside, and by using getName I'm going to get the value outside from name. And the same thing happens with age. So of course your getAge is not going to return, it's going to return an integer value and it's going to return age, and your setAge is going to take in an integer value and it's going to set it in my age right here. So right now I have a class that I define. As you can notice over here, it does not have a main method. So you can compile this, but you cannot quite run this file. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say new, and I'm going to create a test class. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to create a test class which is public, and I'm going to call it class student test, and I'm going to have a main method inside, and I'm still going to generate some comment. So if I now finish this thing, now it's going to ask me to input certain values. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I want to create an object from this class student. Okay, now coming back to the example here, when we are talking about classes like this class student, which does not have a main method, this you can think of class as a blueprint or an architectural plan. It defines what an object that you create out of the class is going to look like and how should it behave. Okay, but it is not created yet. So I just defined a blueprint of a class student, or how a student, if I run it, if I want to create a class, a student class, then this is how I'm going to go do it, where I would associate some of the attributes. So a student should always have name and age, and then I'm going to have these public get set methods so that I can put the values inside my private attributes that goes with my class student. Remember, this is a class, and you can think of the class as a blueprint or an architectural plan. Okay, so in my test program, what we'll have to do is, first of all, create an object out of this class student. So how do I do this? very similar to like my scanner. So I'm going to say something like class student has to be the same name as my class, and let's say I call it CS1 equals new class student. That's all I need to create an object out of my class student. And what's an object? These are individual instances that you're going to build. These are individual class student object that you're going to build out of this class that you had defined here. So the class over here is the blueprint, and the CS1, CS2 are the object or the instantiated objects that you are creating out of this class. And I'll show you in just a minute how that works. Now the other thing I need is I need to input some values, so I'm going to need a scanner. So I'm going to say scanner sc equals new scanner system.in. Okay, and as soon as I do that, you know that it is looking for that import library. So if I click over here and it says I need to import my library, and it brought it over here, I'm going to take this one and put it right above it. Okay, so now I created scanner object, and I also created a class. So this is my scanner object used to input values, and this is my CS1 object that I created from my class student. And remember, this class student, this is my blueprint, and this CS1 is the individual objects, okay, or individual instances. So I can create a house class, and then I can create house 1, house 2, house 3, which is going to follow the blueprint or the map that I had defined in my class. So this is my CS1 student. So now what I want to do is I want to and also I am going to use my methods that I have defined. So I'm going to say something general like system.out.println, and I'm going to say inputting values. Okay, and then I'm going to say system.out.println and say input name for first student. And then I'm going to say let's say call it string first student. This is where I'm going to store my value. So I'm going to say sc dot, and since I'm going to input string, so I'm going to say next line. So this is the method that I want to use to take in the name of a student, and I'm going to repeat the same thing, and this time I'm just going to ask for the age. So I'm going to say input the age for my second student, and I'm going to call it S student, and next line. So now I have taken those values for my first student name and age. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to associate these attributes or the values with this object right here. This object right here, which is the CS1. So now I'm going to say CS1 dot get name, and I'm going to pass F student here because this is what I just took from them. And then I'm going to say CS1 dot get age, and then I'm going to say S I'm going to call it this. That makes it a little clear. S student age. And I can then come in and say actually call the wrong one. I'm going to call the set name and the set age. So with these two, I'm actually trying to set these values. So if you can see over here, so you have your set age and set name. These are the ones that you're associating with the object that I created called CS1. So these are the two things that I would need from here. And now this is not a string, that is what it was complaining about. Int, and this is not going to be next line, it's going to be next int. And now I'm going to give it a space, so system.out.println, and I'm going to say name of first student is CS1 dot get name, and I'm going to copy it again and say age of first student is get age. Right? So basically now I have created the first object and I have asked for these values, and then these variables are passed with these set name and set age that I have defined in my class. So right now, if I now want to run my program here, it says inputting values, input the first name, and I'm going to say Johnny, and then first age, let's say 36, And here you go. Now, if I want to create a new student which follows the blueprint of my class student, the only thing I got to do is I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to copy paste this one and I'm going to say CS2. So as soon as I create my new object, this can use everything that I have already defined over here. So I don't have to go back and write my get name and get age, and I do not have to write my set name and set age anymore. So only thing I got to do is I have to come in and I'm just going to copy this one to show you. So I'm going to write here, creating a second student object that follows the blueprint class student. Okay, and then right here, my inputting values, I can come in and do this, and now I'm going to just change this one to second and call it S student, and I'm going to call it second student age, and now I'm going to take the same thing. Instead of now doing S1, I'm going to do 2, and remember I called it second student here, so I'm going to change it to this over here, and I'm change this thing over here, and I'm going to pass this over here, and then I need to copy this, and now change name of the second student, and just need to change my CS2 and CS2 over here. So these methods that I had defined in my class, I did not have to change. Once I write it once in my blueprint, I can create as many objects like CS1 and CS2 and associate them with the values so that I can now keep on storing more and more values. So now if I run it, now it's going to store the same thing. I don't have to rewrite everything here. So I'm going to say input first one 35. This is the second one, and if it says second student, and there's another things that I have to do is I have to do for the second student, I have to put in a space so that it does not it lets me put some values in here. And again, this is because some of these things have changed, and that's why it is showing this thing and immediately going over here. So now I just need to come in and put my second student information, and then it's going to run it and it's going to give it the same output just like I had seen previously.